Now I'd like to ask David Simon to come up. Our next speaker David is creator of The Wire, a former Baltimore Sun crime reporter, and a great supporter of Sheldon Laskin in our campaign. Thanks. Thank you.
So it's true. I haven't been endorsing candidates. It's the residual nature of being a reporter for all those years. It was something we weren't supposed to do. But the way things are going right now, I'm getting the hang of it. And in particular, the case of Bobby Zirkin really requires everybody to be overt and direct about what's going on. Everyone you've heard from has spoken very eloquently about the cost to human beings, to families, to communities of mass arrest. The cost of these policies of zero tolerance and mass arrest, the idea that we can arrest our way out of a crime problem. And I'm going to go the other way because we haven't heard about it. And I know that the one thing, when you speak of pandering, the one thing that every politician in America has in his pocket is to say, I'm tough on crime and I won't let this bad thing come into your life. Give me your votes, give me your money, and I will keep the wolf at bay. And Bobby Zirkin, that is his mantra. That is what he delivers to this district. And then he goes back and puts the money in his pocket from the bail bonds people, from the people who benefit from mass arrest. So I'm going to go the other way. And I'm going to use my minutes to basically explain to you that I'm deeply sympathetic to law enforcement. I wrote a book about good police work. Some of you may have read it years ago. I followed the police as a reporter for about 15, 16 years. I've watched what has happened to the Baltimore Police Department happen to its great, it's been a great tragedy. And I'm here to tell you that it's actually counterintuitive. The more arrests you make, the harder you fight for every last arrest, the weaker the charge you're able to put on people, the more time you're able to give people under the law, the more you take on in terms of policing communities, the more dangerous it gets, the worse your police work becomes. We taught, over the last 20 years, that police department down on Fayette Street, we taught them how not to do police work. It sounds crazy. It's counterintuitive. You say, give them all the tools, let them lock everybody up, and we'll be safer. In fact, when you diminish the power of an arrest and the meaning of an arrest, so that you're basically locking everybody up, giving them criminal histories for nonviolent things that shouldn't be felonies, that shouldn't actually occupy the time of a police department with limited resources. What you're not doing is arresting people for murder, for rape, for robbery, for assault. In the time that the Baltimore Police Department's arrest rates topped 100,000 a year in a city of 620,000, in the time that its arrest rates for narcotics doubled and then tripled, the clearance rates and the conviction rates for murder, for attempted murder, for robbery, for rape, for assault fell by 40 to 60% depending on the category. Think about that. It's counterintuitive. They tell you when you lock up all these bad people taking drugs and selling drugs and standing on the corner, the city will get safer. Okay, we didn't lock them up for what they're really doing that we're afraid of, but we got them for the drug case. We got them for loitering. We got them for this. We got them for that. We locked up 600 last night. The wagons kept running. So why is the city now the most dangerous it's ever been after years and years of mass arrest? The truth is that we taught a generation of police how not to do police work. We taught them fish in a barrel. Go up to the corner, jack everybody up, take the drugs that you find in the gutter, give it to the guy who's standing closest to them, put him in the wagon, run him downtown. There isn't the generations of cops that used to be able to work informants and not be themselves worked by informants, who used to be able to testify in court without perjuring themselves, who used to be able to write a coherent search and seizure warrant that would stand up in court, who used to be able to interview people in an interrogation room and get coherent information out of them, who used to be able to write a report that could actually stand as being literate. They're fewer and fewer. And the strength of any police department, the sergeants and lieutenants that run the squads, that have to train the new guys coming in as to how to do police work, they don't know how to do police work anymore. The power of zero tolerance was that it taught an entire police department that they could make their stats, and they could get paid their overtime, and get paid their court pay, and make sergeant and lieutenant, and train other cops not how to do police work. And they could do this with the most meaningless arrest possible. So what is Bobby Zirkin asking for? He's pretending that by declaring that we're now going to have mandatory minimums, that he's making the city safer, and that what he's achieving is some sort of response to crime. The joke of it is that it's not that we have a bunch of judges downtown that aren't, that when they're presented with a case and somebody who's actually done some violence, they're letting the guy go, or they're not honoring some fundamental minimum of sentence. It's that the cases coming into, the casework coming in is broken. You can't convict on this stuff. Do you know that the state's attorney's office under Marty O'Malley stationed a full-time assistant state's attorney at central booking because they were locking people up, and they would get you to sign a form that said, I promise not to sue for being falsely arrested, and you could go home that night. If you didn't sign the form at central booking, you stayed to see a court commissioner. So tens of thousands of innocent Baltimoreans signed the form so they could go home. This was necessary because an entire police department, so that a certain man could become governor when he was mayor, a police department was going to arrest everybody and clear the streets. And this was supposedly going to make us safer. And ridiculous claims were made about how much the city did become safer under Marty when he had a magical 40% reduction in all crime stats. Actually, the murder rate went down about 6%, 8% in those years. Do you know what's going on when the murder rate goes down 8% and the attempted murder rate, the number of people shot, goes down 40%, shot at, or the aggravated assault goes down 40%? Think about this. The murder rate went down 6%. The attempt murder rate went down 40% by the mayor's statistics because of this crackdown on crime. What's happening is they're making the stats up. Either people have become the greatest shots in the history of ballistics. Either the criminals of Baltimore either had gone to the range every 2 weeks so that they weren't wounding anybody, they were only killing people, or they're finding ways that everybody takes a gun out and threatens somebody or fires a shot and misses, that it's not categorized as an aggravated assault. The stats were all lies to get him elected. But it trained a police department to lie. It trained a police department not to do the hard work of locking people up when they actually shot people. Because in this time, clearance rates went down. And that's what we were confronted with now. This is the generation now, 10 years, 15 years later, that should know how to do police work, but all they know how to do is chase stats. Lock up as many people as you want. I'm going to close with one of my favorite stories, which is a philosopher king named Terry McLaurin, he's still in the police department now, and God bless him, he's one of the good ones. He was, as a sergeant, once confronted by two young officers in the Western District, and they had a contest, these two kids. They were new to a squad. Their contest was who could make an arrest faster. And whoever could get back to the booking desk with somebody in handcuffs would win the contest, would win the bet every night. And so they would run out of roll call, and they would go straight across the street at Riggs Avenue, and they'd grab the first loiterer they could find, and they'd bring him back in. And they played this game for about a week and a half, and finally Terry went to them. They weren't even in his squad, but they were on a shift. And he said, look, guys, anybody can do this. This is nothing. You're not doing police work. What do you say it's the first guy to come in with a Part 1, which means felony, as opposed to a misdemeanor? The first guy in with a Part 1 really wins the bet. And they tried this for 2 nights, and they decided, this is too hard. The game's no fun anymore. And they went back to doing what they were doing. Well, the whole police department has gone to that. So when Bobby Zirkin tells you, listen, I'm freeing up the judges, it's going to have no effect. It's going to have zero effect because the judges aren't being presented with cases that you can convict anyone on. Meanwhile, it is still telling the Baltimore City Police that zero tolerance and mass arrests are still the way to go because the people who will benefit are the people who write bails. And the people who write bails want want to see 100,000 people arrested in a year. The truth is, years after O'Malley was in Annapolis and gone, and he left this legacy, you had a police commissioner who basically looked at it and said, this is crazy. We got to get the number of arrests down from 100,000 a year to maybe 40 or 45,000. We got to do something so that the arrests actually matter. And he made half as many arrests as we were doing when we were locked into this insanity. And that's when the murder rate went down. When the arrests actually were targeting people who were violent offenders. And when you actually got credit as a police officer for arresting a violent offender. It was a rare window of sanity. And now, suddenly, looking at this legislation coming from Annapolis, we're walking the other way. So this guy's got to go. And this is the district that has to do it. We have to get to this point where we arrest people when they need to be arrested, but we don't arrest people as a means of production. And that's all it is right now, is a way for certain people in society to make money off other people who are in great distress. It's not making us any safer, and it's not helping the city, and it's completely alienating to anybody who wants to believe in their police department. So thank you for listening to me.